Welcome to the Pint and Click podcast. I'm Dave. I'm here with Joel and Tony, and we're here today to talk about Stan Lee. Stan Lee passed away not too long ago, and it kind of rocked my world and maybe some of you as well. And so we hope to talk about Stan Lee and his contributions, materially to the library and all the movies and books and things that we have related to Stan Lee. But just, how he affected our lives and how he has changed the world in some pretty incredible ways, considering the blockbuster movies and the popularity of the word Spider-Man. Everyone knows who Spider-Man is. I don't know where you could go in the world and someone doesn't know Spider-Man, right? Stan Lee, if you don't know, was the head and the face of Marvel Comics for many decades. He had a lot of different jobs. He was a writer, he was an editor, he was a producer. He was born in Manhattan and spent most of his life there writing comics. He did go west to L.A., go to Hollywood when they wanted to start up studios there and make some early movies, make some early cartoons, and so that was kind of a big deal. We're sending our best. And then, unfortunately, he died this year at 95. His wife died the year previous, 2017. And we made a little display at the library of items you might want to check out, but I feel like that wasn't enough. And Joel and I especially thought that this would be a great podcast material. So Stan Lee is a Marvel man. He is not DC. He is not Superman. He is not Batman. He is not Wonder Woman. Make sure, get your brand straight. People might be upset if you put a Batman DVD on a Stan Lee display. But my first experience with Marvel and Marvel Comics was actually not that long ago. I read comics as a kid. I remember I had some Elf comics. I don't know why, but Elf was the one that I got. And I read those here and there. I loved comic strips. I loved Calvin and Hobbes. I loved Garfield. But it wasn't until my 20s as an adult and Iron Man 1 came out. And I'm like, this is an amazing movie and a great character. I got to know more about this. So I went to my local comic shop and I'm like, what's new? What do I do? And he's like, here you go. And he put some comics in my hand and I've been reading them ever since. Are you guys big comic readers?
I have always been, I wouldn't say a big comic reader, but I'd say a medium comic reader. It wasn't Marvel that I grew up on, but it was mostly Disney, mostly Donald Duck, Uncle Scrooge. Mm-hmm. Those were just terrific. I loved those. Still do. And Archie. Archie comics. My dad had a bunch from when he was a kid, just like boxes and boxes full. And I remember just Saturday afternoons lost up in the attic, just disappeared in this world of Riverdale and Duckburg. Mm-hmm. And my older brother had a sleeping bag. I'll always remember it. Blue. I had Spider-Man fighting all these villains. The Vulture and the Hobgoblin and all, Sandman, all these villains. And it always captured my imagination from just an extremely young age. It wasn't until 9 or 10 years ago, my son had just been born, and I was thinking ahead of literacy. And how am I going to just introduce him to, reading and stuff like that? Mm-hmm. So I thought of Marvel and comic books. And I had read a few before then, but I got the collected works of the Hulk, the first 3 volumes of the Hulk, the first 3 volumes of Iron Man, the first 3 volumes of Spider-Man. Sure. For a kid who hadn't yet been born, by the way. But I ordered them all online, and I got them, and I started reading them, and I was hooked. Yeah. It was with the Marvel when they first started coming out, but I had known enough about them and read enough about them to get excited for the movies, but then the movies spurred on my interest of the reading, and the reading spurred on my interest of the movies, and it kept on going. I would say that I've had especially for Hulk, for Spider-Man, the conflicted personalities behind those individual characters, as well as a fascinating form of Tony Stark, of being a normal human being, but didn't change into anything, but he transformed, he built added on everything. So it was to me that there was a lot of work behind these characters that really fascinated me. Yeah.
Tony, I think you're a little light. Yeah. Maybe we're heavy, medium, and light here at the table.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I got into comics really young. Actually, I got into Marvel comics really young, conversely to you guys, in that I was really into, I watched a lot of TV, so I ended up watching the Spider-Man series when that was on, I think in the 90s, and and the X-Men series on Saturday morning cartoons.
sure.
And I just always remember like only ever getting to watch like 10 minutes of it before I had to turn it off because I had to do chores. But it was something that I was like, the idea of it was just so cool. And I never, I have my favorite characters because I only knew a few characters because I only saw the first like 3 episodes of that show. I did read, and in terms of reading, I did read the original like compilation of Spider-Man, and that was really a lot of fun. And I remember actually borrowing that from my brother's bookshelf. But yeah, I feel like just besides like a casual, like, oh, I know I like these comics, I know I like the Spider-Man show, I always wanted more of them in my life, but I never really pursued the actual comic book route. I never went and said, hey, I'm going to go and find these comics.
Go to the source.
Yeah, go to the source. And then thankfully, in the early 2000s, all the tons of comic movies were being made anyway, so I couldn't avoid them any longer. Yeah, so that's a pretty, I would say, light relationship to them. And then now, as an adult, I'm like, there's so much that I could possibly read that I'm fascinated by, especially in the Marvel universe. I don't even know necessarily where I'll start, but
Sure.
I think hearing more and more about Stan Lee's story is very inspiring. It makes you look at the characters in a new light because the revolutionary thing he did when he took a risk with Fantastic Four is that he gave the characters flaws. He made them more relatable than the average superhero that was being written in that time period. He gave them more human characteristics, and that's like one of the reasons Spider-Man and Wolverine or Cyclops are cool and just interesting because you can relate to them. So.
Yeah, I think that's a critical component to the Marvel characters, even the villains. When Venom was a villain, he still had these likable characteristics that helped draw you in, and he wasn't just able to be painted with one dimension. He had a lot of depth to the character.
Or the other way, where the heroes, Superman is always, in that time especially, was boasted about for his great feats. He could, faster than a speeding bullet, could jump over a building. But you get the Fantastic Four, and like Thing kind of hates himself. It's fascinating. Like he didn't want to change. I mean, Johnny can run around and turn on flame on and fly through the sky, but Thing is just like, I'm a big weird monster. I hate this, and that was totally a new character and a new conceit for a team up. Like, why would he team up? Why would he? Play to his strengths. Why wouldn't he just sink into a depression and fade away? Well, because it's his family, it's his friends. Like he needs to be a part of that relationship. And if it means clobbering some bad guys here and there, like Thing has their back. So it wasn't just like Superman where it's like, I can solve this problem, so I guess I will. Like Thing is like, I'm here to help my friends. I'm here to be a family.
It's a normal push-pull of daily relationship. Yeah. And there is no, like, you've heard me say it a million times, but the Clark Kent wearing the glasses and then taking off the glasses, suddenly he's someone else. And no one can ever put together the fact, like, that, to me, that's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, Thing can't turn it off. He's always a big orange rock monster, right? Whether he's saving the day or just trying to get on the bus to work or wherever he needs to go, he's a big orange rock monster. And he has to deal with that. And the idea of fame was new to superheroes in Fantastic Four. The idea that, they enjoyed being recognized and enjoyed the fame as opposed to, well, I'm just doing my duty, ma'am. They enjoyed being celebrities, as any of us might if we were granted superpowers and could fly through the air. And
that's one of the great things about Spider-Man. We can get into one of those characters. Like, he enjoys the fame. He likes bantering with people, but he also likes saving the neighborhood.
Right.
And he also is really concerned about his identity because if people know who he is and they're going to hurt people close to him, there's always that theme of people close to him being hurt and his protecting not himself but other people.
Yeah, I like that too. It was entertaining to watch the fact that he made a spectacle. Like, since he was a reporter, like photographer, as his alter ego, he would make sure to bring back really awesome photos. And I feel like that is part of the dance between realities of who you're going to show and what you can do with your power and all that. So, but yeah, I think that is one of the things I really liked about Spider-Man is that he's not very, compared to some of the villains he went up against, he's not very overpowered in any kind of way. He's just like, he has a very fast reflexes. He can think on his feet and some strength. Yeah. But besides that, it's his inventiveness. And that's creativity, and that's something no one can take from you, I think that says something about what are his strengths, quantify them, and they're very ephemeral in a sense. But
and he can also get, pounded by a corner of a building and eventually defeat the villain after this huge epic battle. But then he has to like run home and finish his homework and normal life things you have to worry about.
Yeah, which is like the perfect fictional character is someone who has to balance work and life and family and fun and responsibilities and relaxation. And Spider-Man does all those things while being inspiring to us as well, all in an action-packed story. I think it's an amazing American character from the last century that we kind of all feel a little bit like Spider-Man here and there, where it's like, how do I balance this and that? How do I be who I want to be, but also be who I am to the people who love me and the people who I love? So, like, these flaws, this was all Marvel. This was all Stan Lee. Like, I'm going to make flawed characters. I'm going to make interesting characters. I'm going to make diverse characters. And it saved the company, at the very least. The company was facing bankruptcy, and Fantastic Four turned them around and has gone on to enormous success today in the movies. You know, the buyout by Disney of Marvel Entertainment and, you know, the millions of Stan Lee fans around the world who, you know, pay $100 for a picture with him. I'm shocked by that sticker price. And the people will come from all around the country to conventions just to see the man, just to tell them how much they appreciated what he did.
And also his inclusion in his movies.
Yeah.
It's always cracked me up. It's always kind of like whenever you see a Marvel film, you're looking for Stan. You know, where's he going to show up?
You're waiting. He's coming. You know he's coming.
Is it this FedEx delivery man? Is it this guy yelling out the window at Spider-Man?
Yeah.
And I think that's my favorite cameo, by the way, in Homecoming. He always just was present and not self-effacing, but self-aware of like, I'm this guy here, and this is the creation going on. But I just want to fit in. I want to be part of this because I enjoy it so much. That's kind of what I felt when I watched the movies and see his cameos. Even back to, was it Mallrats?
Sure.
Oh,
And he's in the movie with Mallrats. I thought that was just great. Like he played him, it was himself, right?
Played himself in the movie, yeah.
And
he was there for a signing or something like that as himself.
And a lot of the times writers aren't comfortable being in front of a camera. Not him. He's there doing his thing. That's what I enjoyed.
Well, that might actually be different because in his early career, he was kind of embarrassed to be a comic book writer. Like, oh, this is for kids. No one takes it seriously. Like, he would talk about he'd go to parties and be like, what do you do? Oh, I'm a writer. Oh, who do you write for? Oh, you know, periodicals. And he wouldn't put it out there that I write Iron Man and Spider-Man and Incredible Hulk because he thought, you know, that's not what adults do. Adults.
Right.
When he was a kid, he lived kind of a dual life. Like, he would read Shakespeare and he would read comics. So, like, he kind of aspired to be the next Shakespeare, and he kind of ended up doing comics like as he felt. But then in the end, this is like some of the strongest stories that America has is these superheroes.
Yeah, I would dare say he's a different spoke on the same wheel with Shakespeare or Dickens. Not overinflating, you know, literature, not doing recency bias, but if you look at the mythology of America or the West, it's these characters. You know, we recognize them as much as, and I always think back to Greek mythology. People of ancient Greece, like, oh, Apollo, I can't believe that. Like, if they could sell Apollo material, they would have. You know, and he would have been just as popular as say, Spider-Man or something like that. The only difference is they didn't have targets. But it's all over the place now. And, like, there are different symbols for each of the Avengers. And you can kind of figure them out just by looking at the little medallions. I've noticed that just in marketing.
And it's becoming its own like language, and it's so much a staple of our culture that it's becoming. Sorry, I cut you off a little bit.
No, it's good. It's just recognizable. If you mention something from Shakespeare, you know, if, like you mentioned a play, people know. Like, they don't have to say who wrote that. You know, it's almost like the character who created that. Oh. You know, unless you think Batman was a Marvel character, then, you know, you probably know that Wolverine was made by Stan Lee. But they weren't all made by Stan Lee.
No, they were not. That is one of the unfortunate realities of his life, is that he didn't really give credit where credit was due for a long time. And it kind of cost him friends and employees at the same time.
It'll cost them too.
Yeah, it costs them as well. It costs them money at the very least. But throughout his life, you know, he was a writer, he was an editor, and he was also just kind of like the ideas guy coming the work one day and say, I've got this idea for a new superhero, and who wants to take a shot at drawing this one? And you're like, oh, that looks great. I'm glad I invented this character. And it's like, well, the artist is half the battle, Stan, but at the time he didn't feel that way. And he drove off Kirby, who drew and created a lot of these characters as well, because he didn't get credit and he didn't get the money. And Stan said, you're working under contract. And that's, all you amount to. Later in life, he came around on that quite a bit. He wrote a book with someone that mostly just acknowledges all the people in my life. I wish I had the title handy, but this is what they did. This is what they contributed. And, that's starting to turn, too. If we can flip to DC for a moment, like DC always had the long-standing battle with Bob Kane and Batman. It's like, well, did Bob Kane invent him by himself? It's like, no, absolutely not. Bill Finger was a huge part of the Batman mythos. Bill Finger, he created the Joker. He created Catwoman, right? Why isn't his name up there? And then in the latest Batman movie, it was figures created by Bob Kane and Bill Finger. And so, like, that's starting to turn, too, in Marvel. We're seeing Kirby's name pop up on the Captain Americas. We're seeing Ditko's name pop up on the Spider-Mans. I kind of feel like towards the end of his career, Stan felt bad about not giving those acknowledgments at the time and kind of hoped for change. And it looks like change is coming. The artists are going to get more attention these days, and rightfully so.
Well, and we're talking about, like, how does it impact our lives? It took Stan a long time to recognize something, but, we can look around now and, like, not like where are we not giving credit to, but just kind of remain cognizant to staying within yourself and recognize contributions where they come from.
Right. Yeah, he kind of tells the story about Spider-Man, and the first idea was a fly man. He's a fly on the wall, like he can climb walls. And they're like, no, and then it kind of like as a group, they kind of reshaped it into Spider-Man. And Ditko's like, oh, I want to draw this guy. I got an image. I got it all figured out. And Stan's like, no, we're gonna have Kirby do it. So Kirby drew his Spider-Man short to Stan, and Stan's like, no, I don't know. And then Ditko's like, seriously, I'm going to draw this. Let me show you. And he drew the Spider-Man that we know today. Like, that's 100%. Ditko's contribution is that image, that mask, that costume.
The eyes.
And the wide eyes and the webbed chest and the red and blue and all that good stuff. So good for these guys, too. It's not just about Stan Lee. The podcast is about Stan Lee, but the Marvel universe is. He may be the face, but maybe he's not the heart. Maybe he's not, every piece of the body. But there's certainly more, too. I mean, hundreds of artists over 100 years have been contributing to these characters, right? Artists and writers and inkers and colorists and letterers and, editors and like the mythos of the novel, right? I'm going to write a novel and it's going to make me $1 million, right? I'm going to sit in a shed in the woods and write this novel. But comic books are a group effort and always have been. There's steps along the way. You've got to maintain deadlines. Like, I have to write this book today because I have to get it to the artist who has to get it to the colorer who has to get it out by June or something like that. So if I'm late on this deadline, there's a cascading failure that happens. Not enough credit is given to all those steps along the way. We kind of cheer for the writer and a little bit for the artist and a little bit less for the letterer and the inker along the way. As, again, in not Mallrats, but Chasing Amy this time, how they rip on the inker as being a tracer. Oh, all you do is trace.
Yep.
Like, I could trace.
But one of the contributors to Stan Lee and Marvel over the years has been Gene Simmons, right? At the height of Kiss's power in the late 70s, he had Gene Simmons drop a few drops of blood into the ink so that they could say that this comic was written in Gene Simmons' blood. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just, that's an example of the novelty and the...
the modern legend.
The imagination.
The P.T. Barnum of Stan Lee, right? The salesmanship, the ability to... You really know what Kiss is about and how can we really make this work as a comic.
Capture the zeitgeist of
there you go.
It seems like he understands the spectacle, like you're saying, and he's okay with, making it all extravagant and making it like, because once he did embrace that Stan Lee moniker, I think he legally changed his name, and he had like pieces of the comic book that were like Stan's soapbox, and he would just talk about personal views on things. And so he was outspoken as I think a marketer as well, and just would be okay about singing the praises of his own work, or at least saying like, maybe just self-promoting. You can kind of see it in the voice of like really a lot of comics, like what's going to happen next. You'll have to read,
Exactly. And he would build as much of a relationship as he could with the reader. And, when we last met, we were in this and whatever, and there's like asterisks everywhere, and like he'll talk about like, well, you remember this in issue 267, and that cracks me up a lot. The other thing that I remember reading about him is that he said that he recognized he was going to be reading these comic books. For a lot of the population reading the comic books were these young kids, and he wanted to make sure to include like good vocabulary words to help build the vocabulary with bigger words, just to try to help what he could with their literacy.
Yeah, I'm happy you mentioned that too, because one of the things we might be losing with everything going to the screen is some aspect of the literacy and of the developing knowledge of how to read, or of something that is very useful in the real world. But on the other side of that argument, I think that by going to the screen, by going to Netflix and going to Hollywood and things like that, we're getting to tell stories like Jessica Jones, and just like stories that you probably wouldn't be reading in a book in your even unless you looked for it and asked a librarian in your library. Like you're getting all sorts. It's not mainstream quite anymore. It's not just Hollywood, and it's not just the same story rehashed over and over again.
But a lot of it is speaking the same story rehashed over and over again. A lot of the characters, and I'm not sure, we're talking about credit being due to different characters, but a lot of the characters of Marvel are people who are outside the normal, Black Panther, Spider-Man, Wolverine, he's just dealing with this sense of being outside of something. And yet, as you mentioned before, standing out, but also remaining within yourself. And not standing out so much that you're standing out even from yourself.
It's overwhelming sometimes to consider all these characters and all their movies and all their books and all their cartoons and all their toys. And that's the thing I love about comics. I also like wrestling very much. We've talked about that on the podcast, because you tell these stories that go on for decades, right? Like if you were to write a book about a certain character's story, be it Spider-Man or Venom, like the book would be 10,000 pages. You wouldn't be able to fit it in a binding, right? Wikipedia does its best, but have you ever read a Wikipedia article about a Marvel character? It's so dense. You can't penetrate it. It's just like every sentence is, and then he went to the moon, and and you're like, what is...
Right.
What of this is relevant, what of this is not, but then the character at the end of the day sticks with you somehow. Like the humanity of the character and the pathos and the ethos and all that good stuff, but also just maybe the jokes stick with you. Right. They're powerful characters, and they have been for years. And the more they get out there, I think the more people realize what a treasure this is.
Right. With these movies, like reading it on the page is one thing, but combining it with an actor who really knows how to transmit this character into a real life persona, I guess. I think they've done a really good job of matching up. Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark.
Seems, like fated by God, right? Who else could possibly play that character?
But that's the thing. Like a lot of these characters are like that, and I always come back to, I talk about Captain America in every Marvel podcast we do, but it just fascinates me, this whole, I'm kind of like Superman, that I can do almost nothing wrong. I can do almost anything, I should say, or Captain America can do almost anything, but he just wants to do the right thing. He doesn't want to just do anything.
Sure.
And that really resonates with me, and I'm a voting judge during Election Day. And so I wanted to wear something patriotic, but more than that, I wanted to feel like I could do this, like, because it's a huge responsibility. And with great power comes great responsibility, right? So I would wear a Captain America T-shirt under my, button down, just to feel, in high school I used to wear a Superman shirt, like before a big test or something like that, so I could feel like just rip off my, and Superman. But now Captain America kind of speaks to me like, you can do this. It's. You may not have been injected with whatever serum, to be a super soldier, but by all outward respects, Captain America kind of gives off that you can do this too.
Yeah. The superpowers did not give him courage.
Right.
That came from him.
Yes.
Right? As the first movie so well illustrates, the first Avenger, when the project goes awry, he just tools around in a show, like selling war bonds, right? Mm-hmm. Like, he does not go to war.
Right.
Until he realizes, I can do that. I can do what I have to do. I can go and, help my friends. Mm-hmm. Like, he could have chosen to waste his power, but he didn't. And all of us should do the same. Choose to embrace our strengths and apply them as often as we can.
Right.
Towards making things better.
So, we talk about a lot of stuff here, a lot of literature, a lot of media, but it's really, we can enjoy it, but how does it incorporate? How do we bring it into our own lives? Mm-hmm. How do we ingest it? Mm-hmm. And I think that it's really interesting to see what Stan has wrought, what Stan has made.
Yeah.
How do I feel when I read one of these graphic novels? It's, I don't know how to really put that into words.
Well, I don't have an answer to that. It's always because it's so diverse. Sometimes it's uplifting, sometimes it's inspiring, sometimes it's very satisfying, sometimes it's not so satisfying,
right.
Sometimes it's terrible, sometimes it's upsetting, sometimes you gotta go for a walk and think about the ethics of what a character did, and how would you act in that situation? Would you join Captain America or Iron Man in the Civil War? And
right.
I'm still not sure I have an answer to that question. But, it's inspiring to watch these characters make their decisions, follow through on them, suffer the consequences as they come. Mm-hmm. And because that's life, man. That's what happens to all of us every day is, making your decisions as best you can under the circumstances.
Taking your best shot.
Yeah, hoping for the best and accepting any consequences, good or bad, as they come. And that's
right.
what these characters do. And in a way that kids can enjoy, in the way that adults can enjoy. When we have Free Comic Book Day at the library, there's always an elderly man or woman that are just delighted to see, oh, I loved comics so much, and can I take one to show my grandchildren? And I'm like, yes, it's free. Well, it's Free Comic Book Day. Of course you can, but, all ages.
Mm-hmm. It's the first Saturday in May, is that correct?
First Saturday in May.
Right,
yeah.
Just FYI, everybody.
It's Free Comic Book Day. Go to your library or go to your local comic book store, and they'll have something for you. Mm-hmm. But, it's sad that Stan passed, but these characters will keep on going, and hopefully the writers and artists and editors and letterers and inkers and colorists that work on them from here on out will be just as enthusiastic as Stan, at the very least.
That's a great point. Like, Stan, when did he stop writing? Like, he hasn't been writing for a while, has he?
No.
So it's all the stories that, for the last few decades,
mm-hmm.
and I've asked Dave about which ones are the good authors to read, the good mm-hmm. writers to read. And David Michael Bendis and did I get that wrong?
Brian Michael Bendis.
Bendis and others. Mm-hmm. But even though Stan has passed, doesn't mean that Marvel will eclipse anytime soon. It's still rising from mm-hmm. his and others' creations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's all read a comic book today for Stan.
Seriously.
Something like that. Yeah. I'll pull some off. They're right behind us, as a matter of fact. I'll pull some off the shelf as I leave the room. But
there's a book on Hoopla, notice, called Marvel Comics: The Untold Story by Sean Howe. I have the audiobook, but it's available through the Des Plaines Library and Hoopla as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And a lot of the original comics are on Hoopla as well, like
mm-hmm.
the Masterpiece collections or something like that, where it's, the first 200 several issues of Fantastic Four and Spider-Man.
Hoopla is actually really good for DC, if I can take a moment to say that on the Stanley podcast, is that if you love DC, if you love your Batman and Superman, they're almost up to date on Hoopla. Yeah. It's kind of shocking how great that service is for a library patron. Marvel's starting to catch up, but we'll see. If you love comics and you don't know where to start, you can go to Hoopla and just click on one and read it and see what you think. Mm-hmm. We've got a collection of graphic novels here at the library. We've got all the Marvel movies from Iron Man to Infinity War. We've got a couple of nonfiction books upstairs, which I will be returning shortly, so they'll be available to you.
We have the Hulk movies with Lou Ferrigno.
Absolutely, the old
on
TV show.
DVD.
Yeah.
So remember those from my childhood.
I saw them in reruns when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Enjoyed them very much. My little brother must have been 5, dressed up as the Hulk for Halloween. I'm suddenly getting an image in my brain of him with a green body and face paint and a green wig. That's pretty good.
And now that I think about it, there were Marvel books, like Spider-Man books, in those boxes up in my attic, but they were so thumbed through and falling apart that I couldn't really read it. I was afraid of just deteriorating in my hands, because these are from comic books from the 60s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But my dad still had, and I would read what I could of them, but I could never get into the story, and they were never sequential.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed the covers, of the Ultimate Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man, all those different runs that they had. So
Friendly Neighborhood, Spectacular,
that just cracks me up.
Superior.
So
it's my favorite, but
the Superior
is a little complicated. Superior, if you love comics, you love weird ideas being fleshed out on the page. Superior Spider-Man is when Dr. Octopus's brain took over Spider-Man's body. And
nice.
I absolutely recommend it, because it was a wonderful deconstruction of the character when you take someone else's brain, someone else's ethics, and put them in Spider-Man. He's like, I can be a better Spider-Man than Spider-Man ever was. And then it turns out it's not easy being Spider-Man,
Mm-hmm.
Doc Ock. It's actually really hard. And that was a phenomenal 2-year run of the Superior Spider-Man that I would recommend. I would recommend comics all day. I could sit here for another half hour and another one. But come to the library, and if I'm on the desk, we can talk shop. We can go look at the graphic novels in the collection. But yeah, Stan Lee, it's definitely sad. There were some reports at the end that his life was troubled, and that's unfortunate. He lost his wife the year before, but we still have our books. We still have our characters.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for the Pint and Click podcast. If you love Marvel and you love Stan Lee, come to the library and check some stuff out. We've got 1,000 items, I'm sure, with Stan Lee's name somewhere in the credits. We'll see you next time.